This is just a very brief little PowerPoint just to introduce ourselves a little bit and just as a prompt to signpost you guys out there to some of the resources that we have available at Quality Meet Scotland related to careers. So for those of you that are not aware, QMS or Quality Meet Scotland is a public body and we work within the red meat sector of agriculture. So I will talk about agriculture in a wider sense a little bit this morning, but then the resources that I've got to show you are related just to that red meat sector. We work right across Scotland, and a big part of what we do is working alongside farmers to help efficiency, sustainability, and also look at our brands for Scotch beef, Scotch lamb, and specially selected pork. We, as I said, as Alba said, there's two of us here this morning. So I'm Tracy, and my role is Health and Education Coordinator for QMS. And in a little while, I'll pass over to Christine. So Christine is a Monitor Farm Programme Advisor, which is one of the main sort of programmes that QMS runs, and Christine will talk a little bit about that. So just to give you a wee bit of an insight into my sort of career path, I am one of the people that Liz just mentioned that started off on a specific road and thought I would be on that road until retirement, but took a bit of a sidestep and have had a couple of different jobs the past few years. So I am a qualified primary teacher and I did that for about 12 years. I loved that job. It wasn't something that I took a sort of conscious decision to step away from, but an opportunity appeared that I decided to grab. So while I was teaching, I saw a job become available with the Royal Highland Education Trust, and I went for that job and got it. So for 3 years, I was the project coordinator for RET in the area in which I lived, down in Dumfries and Galloway. And the reason I went for that job was really because it combined two of my passions. So I have lots of skills from teaching that I was able to utilise in that RET role, but I also had a passion for educating young people about the working countryside and about agriculture. So it really, to me, was the best of both worlds. The RET role was part-time, so I continued teaching for some of the week and did the RET role for the rest of the week. And I did that up until December last year. And then the opportunity to leave the classroom and dedicate myself fully to that education around agriculture became available when my current role at QMS was advertised. So I'm now full-time coordinator for the health and education side of things at QMS. My job involves behind the scenes developing our education programme, which has been designed for young people from primary right through until further education. So we go out to schools and deliver learning sessions. I still work really closely with RET and delivering learning sessions on their behalf at some of their food and farming events. And also we go out into further education establishments as well to do careers talks, a little bit like this one, or more specific learning sessions related to courses, whether that be hospitality, food technology. We've delivered home economics teachers, and we've also done some butchery specific talks as well. So a little bit about me and my career path, and I think the one thing that I always take from that is it's okay to change lanes. So I think young people now maybe feel the pressure sometimes to decide what you want to do when you're sort of 17, 18 and think that decision is the be all and end all. But it's okay to change lanes, and if you're passionate about something and you work hard, then hopefully that'll work out. So yeah, don't be afraid to change lanes would be my message. Turning now to that sort of wider agriculture. This is just one of our sort of most recent statistics infographics there. So at the moment in Scotland, the total workforce within agriculture is sitting at about 67,000, which actually last year took a little upturn, which was good because there is people are crying out for people to work within the sector, so there is a shortage of staff. A little bit of information there also about sort of casual and seasonal staff, and also full-time or part-time workers, but basically the trends there generally are going up, which is great. So yeah, we need lots more young people coming into the agricultural workforce. Turning to that sort of red meat sector specifically, obviously I know that there's lots of information out there about careers within agriculture, but knowing where to find it sometimes can be the tricky thing. So in terms of the red meat sector, we have a whole area on our education website, which is called Farming Footsteps, dedicated to careers. So I've got a couple of links here. I'll hop onto those in a little minute, but basically we have a interactive map which anyone can access. So it might be young people, it could be careers advisors, or anybody that's just interested to find out a little bit more. And it's split into a few different areas. So as I said, this is related to the red meat sector, but it does relate to wider agriculture too. So the first sort of section on there is careers on farm. Obviously, if we're thinking about that farm to fork journey, then we start off on farm. So there's a section dedicated to the different careers that you might find on farm. It then moves to field, so the different sort of wider roles available there, still based on farm, but more sort of looking at agronomy and careers within the technology behind a lot of the machinery that's now used on farm and that side of things. It then moves over to the sort of production side of things, so the food technology side and that red meat production sector, so processing units. Then it moves on to the careers related more to the health side of things. So if we think about the health and nutrition aspect of the red meat sector, it touches on those careers. And then lastly, we're looking at that to fork part of that journey, so the final part of that journey. Now I'm hoping that this will work and not let me down. So just to let you see that in action. So if we start off obviously on farm here and we click there, it then gives us lots of examples of different roles that you would find on that sort of farm section, whether it be cattle and sheep or pig farming. As you can see, feed company down to auction mart, vets obviously come out onto farm, right to that haulier who then would move livestock between farms or off a farm. If we then click on that little next steps, it then gives you links. Best one comes up first there, obviously, so it gives you links to go to find out more about any of those specific careers. So that's farm right through, as I said, to the production careers, and then the health, and then at fork. So just as an example there, gives you examples of links to click on if you want to find out a little bit more about any of these careers. That's our QMS Butchery Careers website there, which is definitely worth a look. So yeah, just a little insight there into what we have on offer in terms of helping young people explore careers within the red meat sector. If anybody wants to ask any questions, I believe there's a little bit of time for that at the end, but I'm aware that time is moving on. So if it's okay just now, I will pass over to my lovely colleague Christine, who's going to talk to you a little bit about her role and careers within agriculture. Thank you, Christine.
Thank you very much, Tracy, and thank you to Landra and everybody for inviting me to talk about a subject which I am really passionate about. My name's, as I said, Christine Cuthbertson. I was brought up on a beef and sheep farm in southwest Scotland. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do at school. I suppose I was an average pupil. I was told that I wouldn't get anywhere and there was no point me going to college. But I was very fortunate that we had the Scottish Rural College on our doorstep in Ayrshire, where I lived. So I progressed on an HND in agricultural science. And from there was a new degree course. And in the end, I actually received an honours degree course in food production and land use because we were able to study for the HND, which had the qualifications to apply for, and then I progressed on to HND because when you study a subject that you're passionate about, that's where everything clicks into place. At school, it tends to be specific subjects, but when you study in agriculture, that was putting the whole picture together for me. And what I hadn't realised at the time, that I'm a people person. I love people and I love the people who work within the farming industry. And that really is my driver. I want to help them, I want to inspire them, and I want to make them the best that they can be. Now, by funny chance, it's a long story, but I thought I would be a buyer for a supermarket, but I probably didn't have the analytical skills to do that. But I became at the age of 23 a partner in an insurance firm with NFU Mutual. And that really was revolutionary for me. I had two other partners and I had never thought about insurance as a career. Farm insurance is very dynamic, very exciting. No 2 days are the same, and farmers need a lot of insurance within their businesses. But again, I was out on farm, I was speaking to farmers, as well as having customers, not only farmers, but agricultural businesses and personal customers as well. I stuck in really hard with that. I worked hard, and by the age of 26, I was one of the youngest insurance agents, senior insurance agents in Scotland, running my own business, my own office with a staff team of six. I think there's very other few industries where you would receive that opportunity and trust and relationships with your customers at such a young age. I did that for 10 years, which I loved. And also part of the role of being an NFU Mutual Insurance agent was that I looked after the farmers who were members of the National Farmers Union of Scotland. So that was helping farmers with their day-to-day problems and issues that they may have, and also supporting them in making sure that they could lobby the various governments and local politicians on behalf of the farming industry and their sector. I really loved this side of the job because, I say, as a people person, I was really driven to help and support an industry that I loved and was passionate about. So in 2007, I moved over to be a regional advisor with NFU Scotland. And I've done that role in Ayrshire, Forth and Clyde region, and the Borders. So a huge variety of farmers within that role, which was fantastic. So again, that was supporting members on challenges that they may have, a one-to-one support, making sure that they had the right guidance and help, be that dealing with an electricity company, be that in dealing with their employees and support there, or lobbying in the wider sense of the word for the agricultural sector. And I thoroughly enjoyed that. So having worked for the National Farmers Union and NFU Mutual for 25 years, I felt that maybe I did need to move to another field on the farm, but very much staying within agriculture. I'd always been very passionate and had supported a government funded project called the Monitor Farm Scotland. The programme changed slightly in that they were looking for facilitators to come in and support the project. So 2 years ago, I applied for the job and was delighted to be successful within that. So the Monitor Farm programme is government funded, but I am employed through Quality Meat Scotland, and I'm very fortunate to have 3 farms that I'm looking after for the last 2 years and for 2 years forward, so a 4-year programme. And that really is business development for farmers and the farming community. We have 9 farms across Scotland. I look after the 3 in the West Cluster. So I have a farm in Islay, one near Drimmen, and one in South Ayrshire. And that is all about looking at the enterprises and how they can deliver to become a sustainable business for the future generations, bearing in mind the challenges that farmers face on a daily basis. So that's a wonderful programme to be involved in, and we take the wider community with us on those learning journeys. As you can imagine, for most businesses, we're having to look at how we reach as close to net zero as possible, climate change, and also how we embrace new technology to make sure that Scottish farming retains a world industry leader in farm production. And in this role, we come across many people that we need, not only on farm, but those who support those farm businesses like myself. Just like sports people, do you know that cows and sheep, they need nutrition as well. So that's one of the roles that we work with quite closely in. What do you feed your animals to make sure that they can perform and be outstanding in their field? There's a huge amount of jobs, as Tracy has spoken about, consultants, technicians, engineers, mechanics, in a world where we can use global positioning systems to plant our crops and robotic milkers to milk our cows. These all need to be supported by a dynamic and passionate workforce. One of the projects that we're working at through the Monitor Farm is using technology and science to make sure that animals can meet the challenges of new pests and diseases. And we have received funding for a project which is really exciting, which is virtual fencing. So now we are in a position where we can have collars which are put onto our cows, and they can be positioned in fields where you want to keep them without using actual physical fences. This means that our suckler cows that our beef production comes from can graze areas of the hill ground and upland ground, of which Scotland is predominantly 75% hill and upland ground. We can keep cows there and we don't need a fence. This makes it much easier for the farmers to know where the cows are and look after them to the best of their ability at a lower cost. So the technology is amazing, and we need shining stars who are at school just now, who are going to be the people that will help deliver a dynamic and farming industry for us and make sure that we are fed not only in Scotland but across the world as well. Thank you so much for having me today, and I'd be delighted to take any questions that you may have.
Thanks for that, Christine and Tracy. That was really fantastic and informative. If anyone has any questions, if they could pop it into our question and answer box just now, then I can ask away, and we can get some advice from these two wonderful people. We question for you. What advice would you give to any young people that would be keen to kind of follow in your footsteps or come into this career sector?
I'll answer that one. The first thing I would say is I think younger people now do have the opportunity to have work experience, which is something that I didn't have. The one thing I would say is that the farming sector are really keen and have systems in place to allow you to have some experience. And don't just think about what's on a farm, think about the supply chains that are there for you. Um, the one thing about a farming career is that most people, a good number of people, because of the rurality of Scotland, will live fairly close to companies or organisations that are involved with farming. Obviously, speak to Lantra, who can put you in touch, and other organisations like ourselves, like Quality Meat Scotland, NFU Scotland, asking about being proactive. Farmers and the farming community are great, that if somebody is dynamic and asks for an opportunity, they will make sure that they get that, because they're so keen about bringing the next industry in. So please just ask, and the opportunities are out there as well.
And I think just to add that a little bit as well, I meant to mention at the very beginning when I was sort of giving you an introduction of myself that I'm not from a farming background. I grew up in the countryside, so I've always had horses, so kind of been in touch a little bit, but not from a farm. And I think there's a lot of misconception out there about farming is for farmers, and I think, as Christine said, wider agriculture is so open to enthusiastic young people coming in. When I first started working with Rhett, I had a lot to learn. I was out on farm all the time, and you just have to truly believe that there's no such thing as a silly question. So even At my ripe old age of almost 40, I felt silly at times asking what seemed to me like a silly question, but always got such an enthusiastic response. So there's no such thing as a silly question. And as Christine said, if it's something you want to do, don't be afraid to put yourself out there and ask, even if it's not from, you're not from that background. Don't be afraid to get stuck in.
Fabulous. There were some great answers. Is there any subjects that you would recommend for young people to be taking if they're looking to kind of go down this career route?
I would certainly recommend that, science and technology, so the STEM subjects are very important to the sector. But as well as that, I think it's also the creative side of the industry and finding solutions. So people skills are hugely important. It is a people industry. You must have those skills to be able to talk and relate to people and support them. Farmers and the farming community are quite special people. They can be quite closed, but can be quite open. So people skills and the people who are there to support farmers, like people who carry out assessments, Scottish Government assessors, Quality Meat Scotland assessors. It's very much about people, but I would say the STEM subjects, so your sciences, your technology, are really important, and it is a huge growth area. And I know a lot of people who have started in Scotland and now are working over the world because Scottish farming is renowned for our ability to embrace technology, for our animal breeding, our genetics, and how we apply technologies. So yeah, I mean, we are very much a science-based country, and that's what gives us the huge opportunities, not only in this country but globally as well. We have a huge reach.
Fantastic. Great questions, great answers here. And finally, could you tell us what you enjoy best about your job?
Um, I'll go first again, sorry. But the one thing I would say, no 2 days are the same. In farming, especially when I was dealing with insurance, you had no idea what you were going to pick up. A farmer had dropped his mobile phone into the slurry pit, or some of these things had happened. It's very dynamic industry. Farmers are always working with the changing seasons. They're always working with livestock, so livestock are unpredictable. Nothing stays the same. But for me, without a shadow of a doubt, the best thing about my role are the people. The farmers and the farming community are so passionate about what they do that it really does make every day a joy to work with them. And at the end of the day, we wouldn't be here without them because we all eat food 3 times a day. So it's one of the most critical roles and one of the most critical industries that we can support in our roles. So yeah, just the people, I would say.
I'll have to say, Christine, I'm not just copying here, but I definitely agree that the people, I think one of the things that I have really enjoyed about all of the roles that I've done, teaching right through to RET and now at Quality Meat Scotland, is the sort of networking side of the role. You get to be out there meeting lots of different people all the time, and I think that goes for any sort of career within agriculture. It's very much an industry that relies on the network and the connections that are built up. So, and that starts for young people at quite a young age with the likes of young farmers. So I think that's definitely the side of the job that I enjoy the most as well. And for my role now that I'm in the sort of agricultural education sphere, it's really rewarding as well, going out to events and then seeing the impact on the young people of the learning that we are delivering. So I was at an event up north lately up in Grattan-on-Spey and delivered sessions to some upper primary school children, and then the coordinator up there got an email from one of the parents who was amazed that her little boy had come home and wanted to help make Scotch beef burgers. Got to be specific there to get the Scotch in, but some Scotch beef burgers for tea. They'd taken the learning home and they'd had a lovely time cooking together that evening. So, hearing these little snippets of the impact that we're having is really rewarding.
If I may just want to say something as well too, there's 360,000 associated jobs with agriculture in Scotland, so that's 1 in 10 of the Scottish workforce. And whilst the people are amazing, the pay is good as well. If you're willing to work hard in farming, you will receive the financial rewards for that. If you're a good engineer, a good mechanic, which the industry really needs, if you're willing to work hard and put in the put in your elbow, you will be rewarded financially if you work hard and you're good at what you do.
Fabulous answers. Got a couple more questions for you. Someone is asking, if you want to specifically get into insurance for farming, how do you find jobs?
Yes, so that's NFU Mutual is one of the largest insurance companies in the UK, and is one of the market leaders in insurance. But there are other insurance companies out there. So that normally the insurance in farming is quite, what's the word? It's quite local because farmers like to work with people. So there are agencies across the country. But if you go onto the website, the NFU Mutual website, they have a whole dedicated career section because, as well as the local offices that they have, which deal face to face with the clients, they also have offices which deal with the underwriters, the claims handlers, the loss adjusters, the loss assessors. Um, and how you get into insurance that's not farm insurance, I'm not quite sure, but because it was always farm insurance that I did. But you'll find that most towns will have some form of NFU Mutual office. You could ask them, or you could go through the channels. We did have people who started in our NFU office on the clerical side of it, so office support, who then moved up to become an agent and partners in the business by getting experience that way. So it's not necessarily something that you have to go to college for. Actually, learning on the ground can help you just as much as anything. So it is a very rewarding career. So I would say look to see if there's an insurance office in your area, or NFU Mutual or some of the other rural insurance companies do take on graduates and trainees and apprenticeships as well through their schemes that they have.
Great advice, Christine. That's fantastic. And our final question for you today is, are female farmers more the norm now?
Yes, sorry, Tracy, do you want to answer that?
I think you have
Sorry.
more on farm experience,
Yeah,
Christine,
I
so go
would I
ahead.
would say it is still on farm. The farmer on paper will probably is more often than not a man. But what you don't see is the amount of women who are involved in that business. So I would say that, over particularly the last 5, 10 years, we have women in Scottish agriculture, and the drive is really there. Women have always been in agriculture. It's just that I think we've found our confidence to have our voice to say we are here and this is what we contribute. That I would say that in the supportive roles round about farming, it will be, I think, way more than 50% of people who are providing those support roles to farming, be that the farm nutritionist, the vet, people like myself who are supporting farmers, the accountant, the insurance agent, will be, I would say, probably about at least 60 to 70% female. And on farm, for example, the 3 farms that I have, on 2 of them, the driving force behind those farms is women who are in the business who are driving them as well. So it is not the male dominated industry it once was, and women are putting it out there and making sure that we are recognised in the vast contribution that we make to such a wonderful industry.
Fabulous. What a wonderful note to end on for that talk.